Hello everyone, welcome to Herlefeld, created by SourceWorks and Desperados93. You know, I'm putting away the combine here, and actually I need to take a peek into the shed. Yeah, look at that. Sometimes when you have something on a trailer, it wants to move, and it looks like our trailer did. And you know what? This building looks low enough, I'm not even sure I can park the combine in there without a scrape. Oh, you know what? Maybe this is one of those that has no collisions. I probably ought to do something with the other header that's sitting out here, kind of high and dry. But, oh well, I'll leave it there for the moment. Let me head back to the field here, and I know I've been having a lot of fun reading comments and on the Modhoster site, and I'm gonna return to it. But first, I wanted to show something that I'm working on here, and I'm gonna end up destroying some crop. But I know there's always an interest to have tires destroy crop. Kind of like so, and here I'm not going to be able to harvest this now. I figured out a way to do it, or rather, I should be more honestly, it'd be I adapted some code from a later version of Farming Sim to do it in here, and in Farm Sim 11, and I also did it for Farm Sim 09. And here, may as well make it look bad if I'm gonna. This is destroying the crop. I won't be able to harvest it. But it wasn't that hard. And you know, sometimes it's remarkable when somebody figures something out in a later version of Farming Sim. Sometimes it's remarkable how little it takes to adapt it to a previous version, and it goes to show kind of how stable a lot of the Giants code, Lua code, was over the years, at least until you hit Farm Sim 19. And I really haven't done much coding for 19 and beyond, because they just totally changed how things were done. And what can I say? I'm old. It was hard enough to figure out how to do it for, these earlier versions. But anyway, I digress. There we have crop destruction. And actually, let me get out of here and we'll just walk up to it. If I can find it here. Where did I go with it? Alright, here's one of my tire tracks. Here's kind of the other. And here's the thing. It's designed for, I think it's an area under the tire, 10 centimeters square, as near as I can tell. And I think that sounds about right. If you form the square, if a tire's under load, I mean, it'll serve for all tires, even the skinny sprayer tires, all the way up to the biggest, fattest tires. I don't know that it would work on duals. If he had equipment that had duals, I don't know if the duals would flatten it. But after asking a few questions of the Discord group that I belong to, Comios, for some of these older games, and I'll try to leave a link in the description, some of the counsel I was given was, when the tires go over, reduce the crop to the harvested state rather than to the planted state. So here, we see all these corn stalks. The planted state would be no corn stalk at all. All you would see is just, the dirt lines or whatever. But it was felt that it would be more realistic to have it go to the harvested state versus, nothing at all. And ideally, of course, wouldn't even do this. What you would see is a whole bunch of corn stalks bent over, and of course, we're not able to do that in here. So, anywho, I at least wanted to show this before continuing with the comments, and maybe I'll just hop out a game real quick here too and show the code that I did, and it's real simple. You can see the whole thing here on the screen, just 49 bits of code, 49 lines, and really not even all that. Shoot, the first 9 are just description. There's a section here in the middle where I attempted to have some debug lines. I was able to prove the debug line. Oh, and what a debug line is it draws a line in game. It draws it on the map, so you can kind of tell. The idea was I want to see exactly the area, that's being destroyed. Well, that 10 centimeters is so small that when you're driving, you really can't see the 10 centimeter square. So I've commented it out. Of course, when we're doing the regular game, we don't need to see them. So it's really even less. And I chose to put this right into vehicle update, the main vehicle. So it's going to look for update, and it's appending my function right at the tail end of whatever else is doing an update. So when it does vehicle update, right at the end, it's going to call my little function called update wheels, and it's going to see, is it active, is it going, is it on? That's what it's asking. If it's hired, and if Courseplay is running it, I think this is correct. If these two things are going on, and it's going to bypass everything. We all know that the hired workers in here aren't the sharpest tools in the shed, and who knows what kind of damage they would do if we didn't have some kind of protection in here. So if it's hired, if Courseplay is at work, it won't do any damage. But then it's going to look for all the wheels in a vehicle, which are stored in a table called self wheels, all 4 of them, or however many there are. It's going to parse through them with this function. If the wheel is touching the ground, then it's going to do, it's going to look and see where it is on the map, that the particular drive node of the wheel is. And the drive node, of course, is the axle right smack in the middle of the wheel. So it's going to be right in that area where the axle touches the wheel. So it's right over the top of where you want the damage to happen. But it isn't the damage area itself. What we're trying to get here is just the location on the map, X and Z. And so then this is coming. It's going to go through all the fruit table to see what all the fruits that we have. So this should cover including multi-fruit. Whatever you have in there, it's going to kill it all. Except there's 2 exceptions, and it's grass and dry grass. If you have grass, you can run over it all day long and it won't damage it at all. But really, it's trying to determine, or it'll parse through the fruit, and it's going to ask itself, I have a function here. This is just getting a location. You're calculating a vector. That's kind of how these work. The ket density parallelogram needs a vector. So you're taking your location, you're converting it to a vector with this utils function. And then it's going to determine this particular fruit. This is a table 2, G current mission fruits. It's parsing through there, looking at all the fruits, and it's asking, is this fruit at this particular location? And not only that, is the fruit at least at, see, we got a save minimum here of 1. I think this is the planted texture value. So if the field is planted, we don't want to destroy the crop. Most of the time, in a field, everybody would know that you could run over the crop when it's first planted, and you should be okay. So we don't want to destroy it there. So anything above 1, this, we got this fruit that we're looking at, and then we have our vector that's defined in here. Then we have the minimum crop value and the maximum that we would want to destroy. I think 4 is the maximum growth state or the harvestable state. So what this is doing, it density, if it finds this particular crop here, it's going to send a number, I believe, to fruit here. So if it's more than 0, it triggers the script and they say, okay, we have something here to destroy, if it's greater than 0. Then it gives it a new value of 8. And these are all bits, and anybody that's opened the editor would know, there's certain bits in there you can click to get when you put crop on the map. If you want to put it at the harvested state, you would do 8 bits, or box number 8. I'm probably not saying it right, but that would put down the harvested state. So this is what we want to put down whenever we're destroying it. So it does one last check here, says, hey, if it's grass that we're working with, bypass this. So this is fruit type grass, not equal to fruit ID. So it's anything else. Now instead of get density, we are setting density for the particular fruit that we're parsing through. Again, over the same vector that we have defined here. And this is, what is this, 0 to 4? I think it's looking in this particular crop range, the minimum to maximum. And then it says for this range, when we see it, and really the only time it's going to survive to be here is if it's above the planted one, right? So we probably could even put that as a 1 in there, or a different value. But it looks for this, and then it says do this to it, or give it a new value if this is the mask in this particular area. So if anything you see in the mask shows up, then do this to it, give it a new value. So anyway, I'm probably doing a horrible job explaining it, but this is where the magic happens, if you will, and the destruction happens, reducing it to a harvested state. Oh, and the 10 centimeters, where we see that is right here where the vector is defined. This is one edge of your parallelogram plus 0.1. Remember, everything in here is measured in meters. So 0.1 of a meter is a decimeter, or 10 centimeters. So it's going one way, 10 centimeters. X would be across the horizontal axis in the map, and Z, of course, would be the vertical axis. X would be east-west, and Z would be north-south, I believe. So 10 centimeters outway. So this is, defining the vector and doing something with it. So anyway, and I'm not smart enough to do all this on my own, or it would have taken me a long time to figure it out. So I started with the drive control mod in FarmSim 15, and then took this code backwards to good old FarmSim 11. I don't know if we had drive control in FarmSim 13, but I didn't have to change a ton. I changed some things. I don't even remember now what all I changed, but I'm indebted to them, obviously, for their code, and I wanted to leave credits here to them. And then, as I was mentioning, I also took it to FarmSim 09, and most of this worked in FarmSim 09. I believe I removed the self-drive because it wasn't needed, because we didn't have Gore's Play for FarmSim 09, and I think it's working there too. So, anywho, just thought I would share all that, and it's working in game here, and I gotta admit, I don't know that I particularly like it. Here, let me get this puppy going. Let me see. Hopefully don't turn your tires. There you go. You're going straight. Let me go back to this dude. Like I say, I don't particularly care for it. I've had to be extremely careful because sometimes the thing doesn't turn around right, and it's a little cumbersome to deal with. And in real life, it feels like you'd have a little more space to deal with it. Maybe, I don't know. But anywho, we are running with it here on the ground. Oh, by the way, look at this field over here. I I don't think, or is it? Is that grass growing back? Maybe it did out here in the middle, but I'm not sure that it's growing back entirely, so I may need to replant it. You may recall we started that with already cut grass in windrows. So, all right, get your arm over here. At least there's no collisions, I don't think, on these power poles. So he's probably going to try to turn around here next time, but we'll see. Anywho, hope you enjoyed that. I'll leave a link to this in the description to Comio's site where it's posted, and you're welcome to it. And I guess if you run into any problems with it, let me know, and I'll try to fix it. I don't know, what's it doing here? Maybe I got too far away. Ah, that's what happened. Too far away. Anyway, I'll go back to reading comments from Modhoster on the Herlefeld app. Thank you so much. Alright, now I'm going to continue by reading a few comments here from Modhoster, but I gotta say, it is so much fun to work on a mod, you know, just like the one I described, especially when it works and you can see progress. And as someone that has wrestled with scripts many times over the years, and some of it's probably just a learning curve, you know, where you work and struggle at it and have to just beat your head in, it feels like, you know, to get it to work. And it's just really helpful when it all comes together rather quickly. And the script, you know, that I was just describing, it really was one of those kinds, you know, to where it just worked pretty much right out of the gate, and all I had to do was tweak it. But part of the appeal, to this game, in having the ability to modify it at its core. Just awesome that they gave us the ability to do that in so many ways. And one other one that I'm working on at the moment, I kind of have it in FarmSim 15, I'll just mention it here. You know, I think we all realized when we got to FarmSim 17, the franchise started requiring the need to plow. I think it was after 3 growing seasons, you know, you pretty much needed to plow. And if you didn't, there was a consequence on your yield. And I think it would knock it down by 10%. So, I mean, not huge. You could still get along without it. But it was one of those cool additions to the game that just added something else for the player to do. And of course, they've only added to this further, you know, in later versions with other types of things to do to the soil. Well, so I got started thinking, you know, what if we could force, you know, in the earlier versions of Farming Sim, force the need to plow. And I don't know if anybody's ever studied how they implemented this, you know, in FarmSim 17, but in my limited way of understanding it, or even worse, trying to describe it, I think it's another texture file or image file that covers the whole map and the fields, and each time you do a harvest, it lays down a layer or something on it so that it counts the layers, counts the depths, if you will, and that's how it kind of keeps track of it. Well, in the earlier versions of Farming Sim, we of course didn't have that, and I suppose, you know, it could be added as an additional layer, but I was trying to think of a way to do it, you know, that would apply to all maps, and you didn't have to modify the underlying map, you know, to get it to work. And I think I found a way, and it's gonna be kind of a pain in the neck maybe for people, but I do know of a way to force plowing, and if you don't, it will have a very real impact to your yield. So anyway, more on that later. I'll continue here, like I said, reading some comments here. Still got a bunch of them to get to on Modhoster. Alright, someone else here says, I've tried 4 different shovels now and I still can't empty them. Does anyone have a solution for me? You know, this is something I'm going to be coming to shortly. As I, in this here, you'll see me hauling several loads of silage. And actually right now, as I'm heading up the road, I got a full load. I'm taking it back to the cow barn. Because I forgot, I'm taking it over to the silage clamp, but what I forgot about is I've already covered the silly thing. And so I'm going to go up there, only to discover that it's already covered, and then I need to go put it somewhere else. But anyway, this has to do with the BGA, which is where this load will ultimately end up. And when I'm doing the silage there, I'm going to start seeing firsthand, if we run into similar problems. With my shovels or on the front end loader. Another person, awesome map. Everything is so cool. The farmyard and the textures. Yeah, that's kind of a recurring refrain on here. Another comment. Only the sand type shovel works for loading manure onto my manure pile. Please help. Sand type shovel. I have no idea what that refers to. Can someone tell me where I can get the grain from the warehouses? Please PM me. Yeah, that's another one. We've talked about that a number of times in here. It'd be helpful to have a manual to the map that says where all the triggers are, including where to pick up grain out of storage. And I think we found it. I know where it is. And in the future, it's kind of a pain to get it out of storage there. You got to back it in. And before you can get it out of the silo, so I'm probably not going to use storage. Anything I produce, grain or whatever, will just go straight to sale. Another comment: how long are the growth periods? Nobody replied, but that's a thoughtful comment. The only way to tell would be to open the map's i3D file. And you got to go clear down inside of it. You can open it in a text editor, and you go clear down where the crop and the foliage are described in the XML code i3D file, if you will. And there is, I forget what the attribute is. I've modified it before. It is described, or it is the data is put in there in milliseconds, so you have to convert it, to something more understandable. At least I don't think of time in terms of milliseconds. So you take the number that you got in there, divide by 1,000 to get seconds, divide by 60 to get minutes, and so on and so forth. So I really don't know. Nobody else answered it. And we haven't even gone through a whole growth cycle in here. So we'll be finding out too just how long it takes to grow things. Another person, hammer map. Simply awesome. And again, I wonder about the translation in here. Or maybe in German, saying hammer is a way to say it's awesome. That could be a German euphemism. I don't know. Can someone tell me how to open the gate at the shop? Also, who has the map and plays it online with mods? If so, please send me a private message and send me the mods via TeamSpeak or Skype, and I'll play with you. Happy to work together. Yeah, it's kind of nice to get collaboration. The hard part of playing online, really the only way to do it, in my opinion, if you want to have a decent game, is to start with a group of known friends. I remember seeing so many instances, if it was a public game that anybody could join, a free-for-all, that's basically what it was. And what you end up getting is a bunch of knotheads that come on there, and they're just there to cause problems. They're the ones that are crashing into people, that are planting the wrong crops here and there and plowing out areas they shouldn't. If you want to avoid the ding-a-lings like that, you really got to start with people you know. So I applaud this guy for looking for a map to play on, but I don't know. Maybe it was better then. Maybe it'll work. Alright, someone asks, where is the crap add-on? And the manure add-on is already in version 1, isn't it? Oh, that must mean slurry, maybe? Or, yeah, I'm not sure what that, maybe he's referring to the same thing. Yeah, that's been mentioned before. I think we have the right mods for that, so we should be good to go with it. Another person says, good map. I'm really satisfied except for the cow pasture. The entrance is a bit narrow, but that's also a challenge. Good map, thumbs up. Yes, there are narrow entrances in here. Okay, how do the sliding gates open is a script. Someone asks, another person, Herlefeld is totally awesome. Another person says, why do you have to collect the bottles again every time you start the map? That must be on a new save. You know, I think it saves, or it's supposed to save the bottles that you have in hand. I haven't noticed a problem with that. I think this person changed versions, maybe, and that's why they're squawking. This person says, the BGA isn't there for me. Another person says, yeah, I think he's missing a script. The map is awesome, but where can I load manure at the farm with the 2 stables? Please send me a PM. We're going to see how the app works. I seem to recall where the manure pile is by the cattle over there, isn't there a conveyor belt? I almost think we can load it up pretty easy, but maybe I'm misremembering. Another person says, I found the pasture with the cows. I'll take a picture too. The pasture with the cows is nicely hidden. I don't know what that means. Maybe there, who knows where the cattle area is. Where does the milk truck usually drive around? You know, comes right onto the main farm down there in the lower, I guess it'd be the southeast corner of the map. And it comes onto the farm, goes over the milk tank, turns around, heads back to town. Anytime you want to see those, you can usually open the map in the editor and figure out, you know, the route to the milk truck. Cool map, but the gate to the BGA won't open. Please help. Someone else trying to open a gate. He's missing a script. Map is cool, but I can't dump anything at the BGA. And yes, I have the BGA add-on and the scripts. Well, I don't know. It seems it's worked pretty well for me, so maybe it has a mod conflict. I didn't have any trouble with it. Once the BGA appears, you should be able to dump in there. The log error shouldn't be there, but otherwise it's an awesome map. Please fix the error. Thank you. Don't know what he's referring to. I guess I haven't checked the log. Maybe there is an error in there. And then this guy comments too, the grain disappears after 43 hours of playtime. Huh. Well, I'm racking up hours. I guess we'll see what happens at 43 hours. Yeah, who knows what happened to this person. Again, maybe it's some odd conflict. Who knows? Hey, the map is really awesome. Just 2 tips. The gate at the dealership can't be opened. At least not for me. And when you drive out of the dealership towards Herlefeld, the road is a bit narrow, but overall it's great. Yeah, sounds like he's missing a script, maybe. Do you have the map door trigger? Another person that can't open the doors. Another person, the map is great. I just think the stones on the BGA are a bit silly. Only concrete would be better. You know, I've noticed that too. When you get down close to the ground, it isn't just at the BGA that it's like that. It's on the main farmyard too. And there is a way to get rid of those rocks. Maybe I'll show it at some point. I think all you need to do is take a cultivator or something into the barnyard or wherever you see those rocks and just drag it over the top of them. And as long as you don't have the mod going, you know, where it's, you know, it doesn't recognize fields or trying to plow it out, it should just leave the ground alone, but it will remove the layer of rocks. I'm pretty sure that's all you'd need to do. First video is the best there ever was. Wow, that's high praise. The game freezes as soon as I try to fill the BGA bunker. Can anyone help me? Yeah, I haven't had trouble with that, unless he's referring to where you sell the silage. Cool map, but why isn't the BGA there? Well, it is, Florian Corpin, if you have the script. Where can you pick up the grain again if you drive it behind the agricultural supply store and store it in there? Oh, you know, That may be a problem in the documentation. I think I noticed that too. It almost makes it sound like the sell point is a storage. It's gone forever down there, and that's a good thing. I mean, you need a place to sell it. Where can I empty my silos? Yeah, that's a little tough to find them. Got to back into them. I had to open the map to figure out where they are. We wanted to test the map, but there was always this upload issue. Not sure what that is. The map looks cool, but what do you mean by map v2 also requires add-ons v2? Where can I get the add-ons? I think the links for all these, were helpfully added maybe a little bit later, and this particular fella didn't see them. So anyway, we're coming down. I'm almost out of room in this video again, because I started talking about a mod. So hope you're enjoying these comments. I'm having a ball reading them. Thank you so much for listening. I'll continue this on the next one.